Hello and welcome to She Reads Monthly Podcast, where we interview women writers and authors' books. My name is Laura Foley and I'm your host. Our podcast today features authors Isabel Bailey and Rachel Schindler, plus returning authors Barbara Taylor Sherino and Anne Apfel, authors of Pray It Forward for the Next 7 Generations. Please welcome them. Rachel Schindler, I just want to give you a little information about our two new authors for this second half of the podcast. Rachel Schindler is a Seneca Beaver Clan woman of the Seneca Nation of Indians in New York. She is a traditional beater, craftswoman, and designer. Look for her creations under the label Starberry, and that's Starberrie. And our second author is Rachel Schindler. I'm sorry, our second author is Belle Bailey. And Isabel Bailey is an 18-year-old student who identifies as Algonquin from the Pikwakanagan First Nation in Ontario. In 2017, Belle was chosen to represent Indigenous Sport and Wellness Ontario, the ISWO, as a member of the badminton team competing at the North American Indigenous Games. An athlete activist as part of Team 8, #88. She began raising awareness under the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's call to action, #88, that calls on all levels of government to take action to ensure long-term Indigenous athlete development and growth through continued support of the North American Indigenous Games. So please welcome our authors tonight, the new ones that we have this evening and our returning authors. And Rachel, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay with you, Belle. I noticed that in your bio, you mentioned being a creative artist and designer. And I was wondering, what inspires your artistry?
So a lot of my inspiration comes from my family. As a Seneca artist, before we had a written language like the English language, all of our clothing defined who we were, in a sense, like a business card. What territory I was from, what family I was from, how I wore my feathers, the colors that I wore, and the things that we made described who we were as people. And so that's a lot of inspiration. My cousin Jerice Sampson, she taught me how to bead and sew. She's a master seamstress at the Seneca Nation Cultural Center now, which is really amazing. I'm so proud of her. And she told me to be your own billboard. So what I wear and what I present and how I show myself is my message to the world of who I am, and so that's my inspiration there. That's how my ancestors worked. I use a lot of natural things. I try to get things from territory as much as possible, walking in the woods and just finding a cool little nut or rock or shell or something, anything with a hole in it, and I'm like, ooh, and then I just kind of have my pockets filled with whatever. And so all of those little mini adventures on whoever I took with me, I carry with me, and friendship, love, hope, happiness, connecting with the earth. And I put that into my artwork. So it's a little piece of me and it's a little piece of everybody else that is around me as well. I am Beaver Clan, and I also love strawberries. And being Seneca, there's less than 400 beavers in the whole entire world. And I'm one of them. So I try to shout the Beaver Clan from the rooftops for sure. And my logo is Starberry Studios, or my company is Starberry Studios, and my logo is a strawberry with stars on it. And that pays homage to the creation story. When the Sky Woman fell from the sky world, she grabbed a tobacco and a strawberry plant on her way down. And so the strawberry comes from the sky world, which is why I put the stars on there. And so it's a sacred connection to my ancestry. So a lot of my other inspirations come from other artists too. I do the fashion shows and we're always trying to help each other out. I hang out at the cultural center a lot, and there's a lot of sewers and beaders and pottery and painting and all kinds of different medias. And so we all get together, and that's also where the elders hang out. So I do run it by them. I talk to everybody and they all have wonderful ideas, and it's like a community project. And when I don't know, I go right to the cultural center and I show the beading group, I show the sewing group. I'm like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they come up with these great ideas or show me a new technique or this is what you need. And that's where it comes from.
Now, is there any artist or beater in particular that is one of your main inspirations?
Yes, Dree Sampson, she is definitely one of the, I was incarcerated for a while, and when I got out, I didn't know what to do. I had, been very dark and very, just violent in my thoughts and had taken a vow of nonviolence. And I needed to find a way to connect and heal, and she came and took me under her wing and taught me how to bead, how to sew, how to dance, how to present myself as a woman, how to respect myself, how to take care of myself. And she showed me true maternal care. She is a true matriarch. And getting emotional just because I love her so much. And she went above and beyond to teach me not only the beading and the sewing and the all the artwork, but to teach me that every bead is a prayer, every stitch is a prayer, every step is a prayer. We also dance, we're hoop dancers. So every time I go through my hoops, I add like a period of life onto my life sentence here. So it's a prayer. Every time I go through, it adds life to my life. And so we connect with the hoop there. And so she has definitely been my inspiration. I do also have to mention my grandmother Ruby. She had really bad arthritis by the time she had passed away, and she was still creating, even with her gnarled hands and injured. She loved art so much that she would just continue going and going and going. And so when people who know my family and know me, and I come as an artist, they're like, that's your grandma Ruby. That's your grandma Ruby. And then I do have to pay homage to my uncle Carson Waterman. He is a famous painter, and he has definitely set the path for me to have a great, wonderful future. We have wonderful conversations with that. And I do come from a long line of artists.
Why do you believe that multi-generational trauma is embedded in our DNA?
Oh, boy, that's a nice question. That's a very in-depth question there. So intergenerational trauma stemmed from genocide, obviously, and the rape and torture and disconnection from tearing children from their parents, and then teaching them a whole new culture and telling them that, I should even say us, that our culture is wrong, that our language is wrong, that we in essence are wrong just by being native, whatever race that was. My grandmother was in a boarding school, and it twisted her perception, her mind, and her soul sick in a sick way, so that she only knew one way to treat people, and it affected my mother in a way where alcoholism was very prevalent in all of my family, and my mother did drink herself to death, and so did my grandmother. So that is a direct result of intergenerational trauma, is alcoholism and depression, suicide, and just disconnection from self, right? And so that was the goal, is to kill the Indian and save the man during manifest destiny and genocide. And so this is, hundreds of years later, the impact of that. So intergenerational trauma is like, I used to be afraid of spiders and I didn't know why, and I had to go through a lot of like almost psychotherapy to try to train myself to be okay with a spider. And come to find out, my great grandmother was deathly afraid of spiders, and so that carried down through my mother's genes and through my genes. That's a fearful thing, because it had traumatized her so much that it went into our genes. And so I had to reteach myself that it was not a danger. It wasn't dangerous. And now I'm okay with it, but I'm still afraid, and I have courage and go overcome it. So that's what we do now in this present day to overcome intergenerational trauma, is we support each other, we band together, and we have the courage. We are fearful, but we still push forward.
Definitely. And I can totally understand how that, fears and traumas from the grandmother, passed down to your mom and passed down to you. I can see how that can happen to a lot of people. And so thank you for being so willing to share that with us. In your story, you mentioned the belief that love is what will heal anything. Why is self-love such an important lesson for you?
Oh, well, they say you can't love anything until you love yourself, right? And I thought that that was not true for a very long period of my time, of my life. And it wasn't until I had harmed somebody that I did care about, to the point where they had almost died, that I realized that I could love something and still harm it. And so I had to go through spiritual inventory, pretty much just like spiritual gouging of like who I was and what I was doing and where it was at. I call it Rachelality versus reality, how I think it is versus how it genuinely truly is. And based off of that, I've been able to find a little bit more peace now, so oh gosh, love, love is the universal language. Somebody in China still knows what love is. It's a human innate thing there. So I do say that love heals the world. I believe that when I was in my dark areas in my life and I was like on the brink of death, that prayer and the power of love, the power of the sweat lodge, the power of my support system, the power of just my native people praying for me and sending good energy towards me is what kept me alive today. Like I'm literally here breathing because of the power of love, and so I'm a part of another program and they say, we will love you until you love yourself. And I didn't understand that until they showed me genuine, unconditional, true love. And then I was able to receive it. Then once I was able to receive it and then feel it and embrace it, then I can give it back away to somebody, because it's a given being given. What I'm given, I can give back, and then I get more. It's like a cycle, as the more I give, the more I get. And that's how love works for me. Even animals and plants know love too.
And did you find that, and sometimes you were saying, oh yeah, I really do love myself, but then you would continue to drink or continue to
Yeah.
self-harm or do other
Well,
things, so that self-love was kind of, I don't know.
well, when it comes to that situation, like I said, my grandmother and my mother were chronically using alcoholics. So as a young child, I internalized core belief that alcohol was more important to me than, or wait, alcohol was more important than me. A liquid was more important than me as a human being. And so it's taken my whole entire life to come out of that and to raise my self-esteem enough to know that I'm a human and I'm equal with everybody else. That we are all just human right here in this world. I'm either greater than nor less than. It's like the hoops when we dance, everything is in a circle and it's a plane. Nobody is greater than and nobody is less than each other. We are all one. So when you talk about self-love, I had to learn that I had these negative self-beliefs inside of me that just weren't true. And that stems from intergenerational trauma. Those were things that my grandmother taught my mother, that my mother taught me through violence, aggression, yelling, alcoholism, and just downright dysfunctional family dynamics. And so my father, on the other hand, was able to break away from that and break generational curses, stay sober. He's been sober now for 35 years. So it goes back to the we will love you till you love yourself. And they loved him until he learned how to love himself so that he could love us. And then now as an adult, I'm able to give that back to people. So intergenerational trauma, there's also intergenerational love too. So that's love.
How did you feel that your parents' separation affected you as a young girl?
Abandonment, again, like I said, I internalized the abandonment of a drink being more important than I was as a child. And then I had spent a lot of my childhood despising and being very angry at my mother because I thought that it was a choice, not realizing that alcoholism was a disease and she didn't have a choice. And to view her as a sick person dying versus somebody who chose to abandon me and just doesn't want me in their life, and so that was a part of the healing, to see my mother as a sick person and not somebody who blatantly made a decision to leave my life and my little brothers and my dad. So that took a lot to get into that frame of mind of it's not your fault, Rachel. This was your mother's decision. She did it on her own. And as a matter of fact, she didn't have a choice because she was compelled by alcoholism. And as a teenager, I didn't understand what that meant, and then I become alcoholic myself as a young person. And now as I grow older and in adulthood, I've been sober now for 8 years, which is amazing, and
Congratulations.
yeah, it's hard, and so, well, today it's not as hard as it was when I first started, but anyways, I sponsor people, I go through the whole thing and we get, to move forward. So the separation of my parents was difficult. It was very hard, but it's common too, the relationship that I had with my father has definitely improved because of recovery. And the last 6 months of my mom before she passed away, she was having suicide pacts and chronically drinking. So there's a lot of trauma associated with that. And I had to go through a lot of counseling, a lot of support, and hanging out at the cultural center and at the language buildings and with my elders and with my peers to like, this is what healthy is. We will love you, Rachel. And they do love me wherever I go. It's awesome. But I will say about my mom, like I feel bad because she was so alcoholic, but she said, baby beaver, your smile is going to light up the world. So let it shine. And I hold that with me and I do shine my smile out.
And it definitely, I think, lights up the world. Rachel, in your story, you speak about dysfunction and trauma being a part of your life and how processing them was crucial to your well-being. What words of wisdom can you offer to someone going through similar experiences?
Oh, yeah. Processing trauma is a task. It is a challenge, looking at myself raw and with reality and honesty and breaking through denial, which was one. Okay, so I guess that's where it would be, is denial, breaking through denial. I thought that I could fix myself. I got myself into it. I got to get myself out of it. And something that someone told me was, you can't solve a problem with the mind that created it. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I got this beautiful brain, and I'm like, I can figure anything out. Knowledge is power, right? And when it came to changing my life, I could not. I was in my own way. I was my worst enemy, as they say, and I couldn't get out of my way. I had to humble myself and ask for help and surrender and truly fully give to people that I trusted, to support. It took a long time to build trust, faith, all those things. It took a long time, but it started with asking for help. I don't know. My way is wrong and I need help. Just that, because before that, I was closed-minded and I already know, I'll fix it. And I was just running around in circles. So for me, the greatest thing that I did was swallow my pride and asked for help. So I would say that that's where it starts, but I got much more after that.
You mentioned undergoing a rigorous self-journey based on the 12 steps of AA and the Red Road of Wellbriety. In this journey, you had to learn what it means to be healthy. What does healthy look like to you in the future or now?
I like that question a lot. I used to avoid these questions of like hope and dreams and wishes and goals and aspirations because, like I said, my self-esteem was so low that just didn't even want to be here. Suicide, depression, anxiety, the crazy chaos that I was in, there was no hope. There was no light. There was no dream. So when you ask me this question now, I get really happy because I have hope. I have dreams. I have goals, like I have cool thing. So my healthy today is me I was just talking to one of my friends yesterday and I was like, even if I had $1 million and everything that I ever needed in abundance, what would I do? And what I would be doing is finding beads and sewing. I would be beading and I would be sewing. I would have 30 sewing machines and every color bead in every single size. And I would be sewing and beading because that is what I love to do. Not only that, I would be dancing. I dance. When I dance, my smile, the joy, the light that just emanates from my body and people pick up on it. There's nothing like that in the world. I would definitely be going to AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, any type of self-help group. The Red Road to Wellbriety is sweat lodges, talking circles, being open, prayer, meditation is huge. Praying is talking to my creator. Yeah, this is what I want, which is great. Meditating is listening for the right action, right? For intuitive, like learning from within, listening to my gut, taking the time to sit down and chill for a moment, take a breath to hear what the universe is telling me, because they're telling me how to live a healthy life. So if I'm just in my way, being all Rachelized, and because I'm awesome, right? I'm so great, but that separates me from spirit sometimes. So it's very important for me to meditate so that I can reconnect, because then after that disconnection, it's only a matter of time before I'm off to the races again. So that's really important. Another thing that would be healthy, Rachel, is growing my whole own food. Everything that I eat would be something that I grow. Healthy Rachel would have no use for money at all. I will barter and service, work, or grow anything that I need to trade whatever I need for anybody else. I would have loving people that are working on themselves with honesty and care, and we would be supporting each other in whatever trials and tribulations that life brings us, and moving forward with love, tolerance, and kindness. I would have chickens and animals that I take care of that are humane, where they're my friends and my family, not my workers or my slaves. I would have my family all around me, kids and adults and elders, and everybody would be happy and prosperous. And nobody would be drinking. I cry because there's so many people that are dying right now, and it hurts because I want that to be true one day, but it might just be me. And that's okay too, because I am a shining light. I am a lighthouse for those that don't know that there's another way yet, so it's healthy. There's more.
But I think that is so true, that we need to learn to be the light in somebody else's darkness and to help them out. And I really love what you said about meditating, because I do meditate a lot myself. And I had a great meditation teacher, but in the beginning, I would meditate and then I would fall asleep.
Right.
And then I would get so mad. I'm like, oh my God. And someone would say, oh, that meditation about trees was great. And I'm like, well, thank God someone told me. And I can say, oh yeah, the meditation was great. But really, I didn't know it was about trees because I knocked out. And so I used to complain about that to my friend, and she's like, but you're still getting the message and what you need to know. And so then I got to a point where, yes, I could meditate, but everything that was going on during the day, my brain was in 100 directions. My shopping list, things I was mad about at work, things that didn't get done at home, other things I had to do. And so, yeah, it really is about sitting still and listening to spirit and listening to your guides coming to you, and kind of acknowledging that, okay, yes, I'm still mad about work, but that's got to go for the moment because, spirit's trying to talk to me. So you acknowledge it and you kind of let it go. So thank you for sharing those. I want to just take a step back for a moment because I didn't forget you, Anne. But this is the book that we had done for part 1 and we're doing for part 2. And it's called Pray It Forward for the Next 7 Generations. And I know that here Rachel was talking about her artistic abilities and her inspiration. And so, Anne, I'd really like you to tell us a bit about the inspiration for your front cover.
Well, the stork represents motherly love, the stork that supports, encourages, and awakens you. We view the stork as the embodiment of life and birth, including new beginnings in the land and in our spiritual reality. Stork is often found in the water. So there's an event coming up that I'd like to talk about called the Walk for a Nuclear-Free Future. That is on May 20th?
Yes, May 20th or April 20th.
I'm sorry, April 20th.
Yeah, let me get the double.
So I've done the Walk for the Nuclear-Free Future. Every step is a prayer for the nuclear-free future. Healing for ourselves, the water, the land, the plants, and the animals. The walk is from Kawanda to Sunset Bay in Irving, New York, and run by Maria Maybe. So if you look up Maria Maybe, if you're interested,
Okay.
walk.
Now, can you tell us a little bit, Anne, about the person who painted this on the front? Who was the
My mother, Andrea Piedmont, is a spiritual artist out in Lilydale, New York. So she did the painting of the cover, the stork and the woman with her healing hands on the earth.
It's a beautiful, beautiful cover. And I have the card that you gave me too, and I have it displayed, and, you know, the artwork is very rich with the colors and very poignant, and I like the whole analogy behind it. I think it made a perfect, you know, cover for your book. So, thank you once again, so you can see this is, you know, from her mom, and it, again, phenomenal artistry here. Now, Barbara. And Belle, we are gonna get to you, not to where I haven't forgotten you either. But Barbara, now, in our last podcast, you had written a poem and you had read that. And did you have any other works of art, since we're on a little bit of the artistic mode here, that maybe you wanted to read, or anything you wanted to share with us this time?
I can read a little bit more of the excerpt that I read the last time. I can continue on if you'd like me to.
Yes, that would be perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, what page is that?
So how it ended the last time, I'll read that little bit just to,
And what page are you on?
I'm on page 120. As if you had just witnessed the creation of the earth and sky and all of the incredible creatures in it, in awe, in love. Not my God, their God, your God, all of them. God is beyond what you call or name. It is a sound, a vibration, an energy, a wholeness, an intention of love that creates all and dissolves all. Beyond language, beyond egoed thoughts, beliefs, creations, and the ensuing muddy water that those things create. I swam in the salty ocean with a renewed respect, with connection and love for having everything we really need: humility, gratitude, air from the earth to fill our lungs, food from the earth to fill our bellies, eyes and senses to take it all in and experience the wonder of it. And I was no longer separate from it. I was sitting in a chair with loved ones around me, talking calmly, joking, and enjoying each other's company, when I felt the love expand exponentially. High vibration from within and without, like stepping into the sun and feeling it on your face after a long, cold winter. I could see it above me, a circle of radiating light. Felt it pass down through me as I reached up to meet it. It was extraordinarily intense and wonderful. I sat mesmerized at the broken dam that had love locked behind it, and the sheer flow of energy of love coming from me, through me. It was like nothing I had ever experienced, nothing I had ever expected. And I wondered how. The conversation in the room was muted. I felt energized, over-energized. I started to feel nauseated, like when you know you need to step out of the sun into the shade for a break from the intensity of the energy. How much time passed? Honestly, I think time didn't exist. I can't seem to categorize or analyze, separate or explain, because that part of my being, my earthly ego, is not available, not online, not in existence. I do remember vividly feeling like I didn't know how to turn it off. And it was sort of frying my circuit, similar to when you're in the sun for too long. But I didn't know how to step into the shade from this light that was emanating like the sun, just above my forehead or my third eye. It went where I did. Did I move around? Was it exactly like the sun? Was it tunnel-like? Was it like the iris of the eye, opening up wide, or like a camera aperture, widening to see the bigger picture, letting more light in? letting all light in?
Mm.
Was it out of the top of my head, forward a bit, like where certain cultures put dots of ash on the forehead? Like the top of my head is high noon and the light was at 11 or 1 o'clock? Was it like where certain religions put halos around heads, or light beams from heads, or round discs floating behind heads in art? That's the ego trying to explain, trying to create an explanation, trying to understand how to create or recreate it, how to get there, how to categorize it, how to create language around it, how to create religion around it. And that may be the opposite direction, the opposite of the direction you need to go. It isn't a direction, it's the intention of every moment you live. It is the intention of every thought that you create.
That was beautiful.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I have a question for you.
Okay.
Was it easy for you at any point in time, or when did you learn how to practice that humility and gratitude and to kind of embody everything, be a part of it all?
I think a lot of that came from my father. He modeled that throughout my life. He was a very calm, grounded, centered person and was not reactive at all, even if there were trying situations. My mom was abused in a previous marriage. And so she was not as centered and grounded as he was. She would get very emotional and she had also some trauma in her family. So there was also depression and alcoholism there. And he, I think, balanced her quite well. I think I learned from him.
Thank you. I think parents can definitely be role models for all kinds of things. And this was definitely, a time I think where it was a positive role model. And it's wonderful to know that he was able to balance out, your mom and bring kind of that embodiment to you of how we should embody everything that we go through and all the positive experiences and
Right.
to be
Right.
present, to everything that goes on around us, because there's so much beauty in the world that we miss if we're holding on to things that make us angry or holding on to things that, don't serve us. Serve our highest good. We miss, if we get up in the morning and we're mad, then we miss the singing of the birds outside. Or if we're mad at the rain, we miss the rainbow, so
Very true.
yeah, so very beautiful. Thank you.
He used to wake me in the morning when I was young by saying that the birds were singing and that they wanted me to come out and play. He was a very kind, gentle soul. And he taught me that in trying situations like that, when people are spinning out emotionally, that the best thing that you can do is not join them in that. You can remove yourself from that situation if you need to. But to get highly emotional along with them and for everyone to be reactive, and they call that emotion mind. You never make a wise decision
Yeah.
when your thoughts are spinning out of control. And if I could pass anything along to future generations, it would be to master your mind. When you're not feeling well, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling depressed, chances are it's because your mind was just ruminating on something. And to teach yourself how to calm your mind, that's not who you are, that's actually just a part of you. If you don't identify with it and you witness it like a passing storm, you can really calm yourself. And when you do contribute in whatever's happening, you can do it more wisely.
Well said, thank you.
Welcome.
Belle, I would like to now switch gears to you. And one thing I wanted to know was, what was it about this book that compelled you to contribute your story?
Oh wow. It's been a while since I've talked about this book, I'm gonna be honest. When I wrote in this book, I was 18, and I'm now 22, turning 23 soon in May. So to think back, like I think it was something for me to get my story out there to be heard. I was starting in my own journey of reclaiming my Indigenous heritage and identity. So I think it was just another step that I needed to make myself do to push myself to get out of my comfort box and to be a part of this and put my voice out for others to hear.
How did your family's connection to their Indigenous heritage become lost over time?
Okay, so this may seem a little complicated, but I feel like a lot of Indigenous people's story is. So my great-great-grandmother, she ended up going to residential school in Spanish, Ontario. So this resulted in intergenerational trauma, as we already discussed. My grandfather ended up putting up for adoption. Luckily, he was adopted by another Indigenous family from the same community, which is unheard of. It never happens. It's very, very rare. So he was fortunate in that sense that it was an Indigenous family and they were from the same community. So both my biological and my adoptive great-great-grandmother attended residential school. So then my grandfather was technically a part of the 60s scoop. So this ended up him not being raised in his culture because my adoptive great-grandmother was not involved in the culture after going to residential schools. She ended up actually not partaking in the culture as much and kind of converting over to the Christian side, unfortunately. She did try to keep the ties as best as she could, though, with her culture. But this did result in my grandfather not being raised in his culture. So that meant that he didn't put it on to his own sons, including my father. My father wasn't raised in his Indigenous culture. Therefore, it wasn't passed on to me until I wanted to reclaim it myself.
Now, part of that losing, when you lose some of your Indigenous heritage, also to the language, you lose. Do you find now that there are more schools or places out there that are trying to teach the language, or is that something you feel that is just really lost?
No, I do find today that there has been a great deal of communities and schools taking upon learning that language again. Obviously, it is extremely hard. There are less and less full language speakers in our community now, so it isn't being passed on anymore. But we have been revitalizing the language. We have been, the younger generation has been teaching others to reclaim it. I currently am still trying to learn the language. It's very hard for me to pick it up. I'm the first one to pick it up out of my family. So it's been very difficult, but extremely rewarding.
What was your experience like being separated from your Indigenous culture?
It was very difficult for me. I knew I was Indigenous when I was younger, but I didn't know what it all entailed. Until I ended up finding out that my grandfather was adopted. I didn't find out until after he passed away, unfortunately, due to cancer. So then I was lost. There was no one who I could ask all these questions I had, and I didn't really have anyone that I was close to in the family that I felt like I could ask all these questions. So this is why I took on learning it myself. My mother, the great woman she is, pushed me forward and wanted me to reclaim my Indigenous heritage, thankfully. So she was my rock. She was there to support anything needed to be done, what I wanted to pursue, any challenges that I faced, she was always there for me. So Yeah, I think that was the great push after figuring out my grandfather was adopted and there was no one else really partaking in the culture. Um, I was pretty upset by it. So I think that's what pushed me and gave me my drive to reclaim.
And so you would say that that kind of inspired you to delve deeply into that. And do you find yourself with the people that, like your friends that you're with, does that inspire them too? For those that maybe don't have a total connection to their culture, to be more inspired to learn about their culture?
I mean, I hope so. Like, I try to be the voice for others. My favorite quote is be who you needed when you were younger. I try to live by that. The one thing I tried to do to reclaim my culture, the very first thing I started doing was I started dancing in my powwow. So I had a family friend make my very first regalia, and I didn't go to my first powwow until I was 8 years old. So now comparing my very first memories of going powwow to where I am today, I think I've made great strides in my life. And I like to be the voice for others who don't have a voice or aren't confident enough yet to express that. So just looking to be someone that I needed myself when I was younger.
Could you tell us what exactly is a powwow and what cultural significance does it hold in Indigenous communities?
Yeah, so a powwow is a cultural celebration for Indigenous peoples. My powwow in Pikwakanagan First Nation, we are very inviting. We love to get together to celebrate our culture. We like to see all our family and our friends there. I like to invite friends out, colleagues, whoever. I love to invite them to powwow to even just sit under my tent and talk for the day. Um, Even also round dances. I love partaking in round dances. Usually they're done in the winter time. It's another way to celebrate and get together to see our friends, family, and loved ones.
In your story, you mentioned that one weekend of the summer is your favorite time of the year. What makes this weekend so special to you?
I think I would say probably going back to the community and seeing all my family. When I first was dancing the powwow, I was not the most outgoing individual. I was very, very shy and reserved, and I didn't have a lot of friends because I didn't live in the community. So I didn't really have anyone to hang out with. But fast forward to even just last year's powwow, I've gained so many new friends. So I think that it just makes me so happy even talking about it. Like, I plan off that whole weekend. I love going back home. I put all the time aside. I put my phone down. There's no service where the powwow is. So it's nice to just get back to culture, ground myself, and I'm refreshed. Even though I am tired from dancing after that weekend, I am very refreshed after seeing all my friends and family and just partaking in my culture.
What significance does the color red hold in Indigenous teachings? And what message is conveyed by wearing a red handprint?
So in my story in the book, there's a photo of me with the red handprint. It is in black and white, so you can't tell that it's red. But the image is also on all my social media as well. So the red handprint is for the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit peoples. So I won't go into the full teaching of that because it is very, very big. But I actually did this at my PAL for the first time to just raise awareness about the issue. And red is significant because it's the only color the spirits see. So that's why red is such an important thing in Indigenous culture. And even putting it back a little bit when I was younger, before I knew about this, before I had any idea about this issue, red has actually always been a favorite color of mine. And I could never figure out why. Even since I was a little girl, I've always loved the color red, but I couldn't put a reason why I love the color red so much. So just down the road now, it's funny for all these things to come out to give that a meaning as to why I've always been so drawn to that color.
Do you feel that there's enough being done to help search or find or to tackle the problem with the murdered and missing Indigenous women?
That's a tough question. There has been things done, but I personally feel there has not been enough done. There's still protests and calls of all these things to be done, search the landfill, and we still have yet to do it. So I really believe that more needs to be done and our government needs to take a lot more accountability.
And why do you feel though, or do you feel that the government is kind of hesitant on checking on, going to the landfill, checking the landfill, on taking action?
I mean, I think it's just another issue of a secret that they know about and they don't want others to know about. They kept residential schools hidden for so long. Think of all just like history, all the things that they've kept a secret and they didn't want to uncover, even going back now to unmarked graves when they were first discovered as well. The government knowingly knew about all of this and they weren't willing to put it forward until we discovered it ourselves. And our ancestors have been talking about it for years and years, centuries, like, and they still wouldn't say that they had a part in it. They tried to keep it a secret. So I think it's just yet another secret that they don't want to uncover. So we're just going to have to uncover it ourselves and prove them wrong.
And that's true. I do see a lot more than I ever saw before, or giving me more information than I had on the red handprint, the murdered and missing Indigenous women. And the one woman who's, doing beading, and she's making little red dresses, and she's making them for earrings and necklaces and things. And I really think that, it's a very important topic, and it's just something that you're right, that you have to kind of uncover yourselves and you have to put on social media, unfortunately, and, bang the drum and yell about it, because they're not willing to, take a stand on that, or to say that, yes, this is going on. They kind of turned a blind eye to it. So for us to keep passing it on social media and to make people more aware of it, I think is very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going back just a little bit. What was your experience like working with a co-op, and how has that opportunity opened doors for you?
I think that was actually the very first thing that started to open doors for me. Like to give a little shout out to my mentor, Tina Nelson. She is an incredible individual and I look up to her since the very beginning of my journey. I can't even remember the first time we met because it's been so long ago now. I was introduced to her by another teacher in the school that I was going to at the time in Pembroke, Ontario. But she supported me, she listened to me, she gave me a drive, she gave me opportunities, and for that I'm forever grateful. And I still have a great relationship with her, and I'm always looking for excuses to go back home to work with her. So probably after school I will be going to see her soon.
Now, you started a lot of great things in your school, things that weren't done before, and to kind of educate people about, the Indigenous culture and about important days in Indigenous history. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I first started by doing little posters around my school. So little bulletin boards. I would just go with whatever the month was, try to do my own research and just put it on the bulletin board that people would walk by when they would first come into the school. It would be the first thing they would see. So I've talked about and educated people on issues about Indigenous Peoples Day, Indigenous Heritage Month, the Orange Shirt Day, Louis Riel Day, Aboriginal Veterans Day, a lot of issues like that. I also ended up doing the first ever Orange Shirt Day ceremony at my school in 2018, I think it was. So we had an assembly for the Orange Shirt Day. It had never been done in my school prior to me doing it, so it was a really big task that I took on. But the day of, I got very, very emotional. This was when everything was first kind of coming out more, so it was a big thing to talk about. And obviously I play a part in it, so I got very emotional that day, and I ended up not being able to speak at it. But fast forward to a year later, I did the second assembly at my school. I did a slideshow presentation. My whole school was there to watch the whole thing, and I spoke and I ran the entire thing. So a full circle moment there. Proud of myself, I was able to speak about it and get up. And the presentation was actually shared throughout the whole school board in Renfrew County. So something I'm very proud of that I did at a young age at the beginning of my journey.
For those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about what Orange Shirt Day is?
Yeah, of course. So Orange Shirt Day first started by a little girl that went to residential school. Her name is Phyllis Webstad. I look up to her. She's an incredible individual. So a little bit of the story, she was going for her first day of school, and like any little kid is, they're excited for the first day of school. And her mother gifted her an orange shirt to wear for that first day of school. Unfortunately, when she got to the residential school, her shirt was taken away from her and it was thrown out. So very upsetting for a little child to go through that, to have their shirt gifted by their mother taken away from them, and all the things that we know about residential schools now today, that they would have had to go through. So she started this Orange Shirt Day campaign to raise awareness. And that is where it stemmed from. I can't think of the year when it first started. Maybe others can help me off the top of my head right now, but that's where Orange Shirt Day first started, just to raise awareness about residential schools and to share one story out of many children that had to endure residential schools.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it is really traumatizing when your mom gives you something. It's the first day of school, you want to look your best, and you want to look just as good as everyone else, and then to kind of be made an example of, and you get your shirt taken away. And so thank you for sharing that and the importance, behind that day. I have a question, which I'm kind of gonna throw out to everybody. And what I wanted to know is, why do you think asking for help is one of the last things people suffering from trauma do?
Ego. Well, I'm Rachel. The one thing that I can think of in that situation is because of my ego. I think that it's a weakness. When I was in my trauma and in my darkness and times, it was always like, I'm not worthy enough for help. Nobody's gonna help me out anyway. So all these negative core or like stinking thinking or thought processes that kept me separated from people, and all that was just the darkness perpetuating itself. So I had to have other people come into my life and tell me that there was another way to live, because I couldn't get it from my own brain. I needed to have another human, another person, some sort of an outside stimulation to show me that there was another way. Because like I said earlier, I can't solve a mind with I can't solve a problem with the mind that created it. So in order for me to change my mind, I need to have an example for somebody else who's gone through that I can trust to do it. So my thing was asking for help was, you don't know me. I'm a Seneca woman from the reservation, and that's very few and far between. So nobody can help me because I'm so unique. I'm so different. So I had to learn how to humble myself and how to ask for help, and to see that I don't know all the answers, like I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. So asking for help was scary and hard and difficult. However, that's the only thing that keeps me healthy today, because I still don't know. I still don't know. Denial is a huge thing. DENIAL, don't even know I'm lying, and I'm lying to myself. And in order for me to break through that lie with honesty and truth, I need another person. And the only way to do that is to ask for help.
And
And when-
that is very powerful, but I didn't know that there was another meaning for denial. Like, I know there's one for fear, but that is really something I'm gonna remember, because that is so true. I think for myself, in asking for help, it's like you want everyone to think, you've portrayed this persona of, I've got it all together, there's nothing going wrong, everything they thought was going wrong, I've convinced them, no, that's not really happening, you're not seeing that, these kind of things aren't happening. So you try, so you don't ask for help, because by asking for help, that means, well, I have to admit that I don't have a handle on it, and everything that's going wrong is actually happening. And everything that everyone thought was going on was actually true. And now I'm caught in this big lie of, well, gee, I have to remember what I said and what I didn't say, and what I can share with people and what I can't, in order to ask for help. And at the same time, asking for help, gosh, that's like I'm sticking my hand out asking for something. So I try not to, because I don't want people to think that, well, yeah, I'm needy, I'm sticking my hand out. I wanted people to think that, yeah, I've got it, I can do this. So Anne or Barbara or Belle or Maria or Samantha, if you wanted to share anything on why you feel asking for help is so hard.
We're just
can-
not taught. Sorry, Barb, we're just not taught to
Oh,
ask
go
for
ahead.
help anymore. So it's what the sweat lodge is all about. We go in there and we sit and we pray and we ask the spirits for help. And what the Sundance is all about, when you give tobacco to the medicine man and you ask him to pray for you and ask for help for you.
Anyone else want to add to that, or?
I was just going to say that when you are in your mind, and in your racing thoughts and fears and anger, and those are the times that you are not going to reach out, because you're going to talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And those mindfulness practices that we talked about during the first part of the podcast, I think being able to really deeply breathe and ground yourself and calm your mind and realize, you need to be connected. You know how important your community is, and you don't need to be embarrassed. You don't need to be in ego. It's important to be able to reach out to people and ask for help.
Anybody else want to share anything, or?
I can share something just quickly. The way I look at it would be that since I didn't grow up in my community, I grew up as an off reserve child. I looked at help as a way of being weak and embarrassing. I was always scared to ask any question in the community because I never knew what was going to be said to me or how I was going to be looked at. And that's a very intimidating thing as a young girl trying to reclaim her culture and her heritage. And she can't even ask her family it either because they're not there, right? They're gone. So I grew up. I did the work I needed to do that needed to be done, and I have my mom there as my rock, as I mentioned before. So I think growing up, you learn that you need to put yourself out there and you need to have those people in that community around you to grow and to get farther in your life, right? So I now know that having those people there for me is what's going to get me to push forward and to get through life in a positive way.
Very important. Yes, thank you for sharing that. This is a question that I'm gonna throw out to everybody. And it's, if you could offer a prayer forward to the next 7 generations, what blessings would you convey?
I have one that I wrote, is walk in love to the Creator.
Oh, nice.
Because the prayer continues to travel, circling eternally, infinitely, inside of consciousness. You are a prayer everywhere at once, released into spirit, amplified by Creator, able to guide and direct future generations with your heart for understanding. Make a conscious prayer full of love for the future. Send it out. Watch your beauty change the world as your spirit returns again and again inside your prayer. To those in need of help, to those who need your wisdom, walk in love to the Creator.
I love that.
And beautiful. Is there anything anybody else would like to share?
I have one from what I wrote as well in the book.
Okay.
And so I like the line as well that I already said before, to be who you needed when you were younger, but something I read at the end of mine on page 102 is this. Even when it is difficult, remain true to yourself and remember the teachings of the 7 grandfathers. pursue wisdom through education, provide unconditional love, show respect for everyone and everything, be brave in all that you do, be honest every day, and always be truthful, especially to yourself.
Thank you.
I think that my prayer or my instruction would be, you deserve to live happy, joyous, and free. Everybody deserves that. Even if you don't think that you do, you still do. You deserve to live happy, joyous, and free.
That's beautiful too. Thank you. Anybody else?
I have something I'd like to add.
Sure, go ahead.
When we're feeling empty and depressed, that it's dark. It's important that we be a part of the equation of giving to someone else actually fills you up just as much as if you were being given to. And you don't need to wait for something to make you feel better. There's a lot of different things that you can do to be just a part of that equation. And when you give to someone else or you do something for someone else or another creature, it fills you up and it has a way of healing you as well.
And that's true because I do find I practice Reiki. I am a Reiki master. And one of the things I always believe is that as we heal others, so we are healed. So that is, very important that as we're working on ourselves and we're projecting that light, as we're going to be love, then we can give love. And so, I like to think that, in the morning, like when I'm going to work, and if I'm getting stressed, I kind of call on spirit or my guides and I say, help me to be love so that I can give love. So I want to project that out because you never know who you're going to meet, who's struggling with something. And if I'm in that mode of being angry, then I'm projecting that out on to everybody I see, or I'm not noticing that person who wanted that eye contact or that connection for a moment. And because I didn't see them, they turn away and they're like, wow, they're hurt. And that wasn't my intent at all. So yes, so definitely powerful words. Well, I thank you everyone for joining me this evening. Everything that you said was very powerful. It was very important things that we need to do, for ourselves and for others, and definitely checking the landfill and, moving the issues, that the Indigenous people are facing forward and to bringing that out into the forefront. Because again, if we're not the voice for that, it's very clear that, others who should be the voice and who are in positions of power are not going to be. So we really do kind of need to take a step forward on that in any way that we can. And if there is anybody here that would like to close us out and maybe some empowering words or a prayer, that would be wonderful.
I don't really want to say the prayer, but I do have two events that I am participating in.
Okay.
Starberry Studios that I would like to talk about. There's a Coming Alive exhibition. It says, come to our new springtime show, Coming Alive. I can't wait to see you. As always, attendance is free. Come and enjoy the new work from Native artists, local and through Turtle Island. Artwork for sale and the gift shop is open. This is at it's 4 to 6 free admission at the Native Arts Gallery. It's at 75 Main Street in Salamanca, New York on Friday, March 29th. So here's the flyer, if you can see it. And then I will have 5 pieces of artwork in there that I just finished this morning. So they're really, really beautiful. And then I'm also going to be at this event. It's called the Ohio Art Market. And it's at the Seneca Allegheny Resort and Casino on May 11th. The deadline for the artist is already gone, but it'll be really fun. So it's at the casino on May 11th, and I will have several pieces of art there, and I will be vending. I'm also dancing with the Hoops of Hope and Resilience on May 6th at the Crime Victim Services for MMIP, which I have done lots of artwork for, and I do participate with, and I'm going to go dance for the people for MMIP on May 6th at the Fire Hall on Route 438 in the Seneca Nation Territory, Cattaraugus. And then on June 29th, I'm going to West Virginia for the sorry, I just gotta get their name correct. The Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area in Elkins, West Virginia. We will be there all weekend dancing, giving demonstrations, and just having a great old time. So if you want more information, my phone number is 716-777-2825, or you can reach me at www.starberry.com.
Thank you very much. So for everyone who's watching or will be watching in the future, please check those out if you're in the area. I'm sure Starberry would love to see you and, you know, to see, you know, her wonderful art. You could see her wonderful artwork and all the creations that she does and to see her dancing. So thank you, everybody. And
I did want to say one more thing. I found the information for the water walk. It is
Okay.
on April 20th at, Maria, are you available? Can you tell us about the water walk? Because I know that you're headlining it there. I don't know if she can hear us or not.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me get my picture on here.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, guys. So I'm Maria Maybe, and I'm a water walker. I've been organizing this walk for a number of years now. We walk from the, we used to walk from the West Valley site, but it's under destruction right now. They're tearing it down, so we don't go up there right now. And we start in Gowanda about 11 o'clock in the morning on April 20th, and we walk to the mouth of the creek. And some of the teachings are that every step is a prayer for the healing of the waters. And we heal the waters, we heal ourselves and all, but you know, everything that depends on it. So if you are able to join us, that would be great. If you know Rachel, you know how to get a hold of me. But my number is 716-200-8320. And come and join us. If you can come for you know, drop off some nourishment or drinks for people, or if you want to walk with us for a couple steps or the whole thing, you're more than welcome. People always come at different whatever. So you're all welcome. Thanks.
No,
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And Maria, I saw you put in the chat a prayer, and I do love that prayer. Would you be willing to read it?
Sure. You asked me what my prayer was. You know, I remember writing a prayer for 7 generations before. And so I'm at an age now where I knew this like 3 to 4 generations before me, and I know 3 to 4 generations behind me. And that's really cool. You know, when you like, okay, my grandma Gert prayed for those little kids that are, you know, playing around here. And that's pretty cool feeling to know that. So I think about that, you know, that I loved all of them all the way down the line. And so I'll read this, whatever. I just kind of, let me see what I would think. I pray that you know love. I pray that you know you are loved. I pray that you know how to walk in a good way in all you do. I pray that you not fall prey to the mind changers. I pray that you know you are descendants of highly evolved people of peace. I pray that you move forward with peace for yourself and those around you in prayer. I pray that you pray for generations to come. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I hope that we all continue to pray it forward for the next 7 generations, so that 7 generations from now, our world will be a much better place. And we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And thank you for all those who are change makers, and for your creativity and your artistry and your voice that you give to us to help us and to help move people forward and to help others heal. And so I thank you, and thank you for joining my podcast. I'm gonna follow your list.
I
Go
will
ahead.
also say you can purchase the Pray It Forward book on Amazon.
Yes, so please go to Amazon, purchase the book, read everybody's story. There's a lot more stories in there. There's a lot of beautiful poetry in there, and the artwork is phenomenal. And when you're done, you know, please encourage others to buy the book too, or to pass it on and pray it forward. All right, thank you, everybody.
Peace.